You are taking the AP English Language Exam in 2021 or later, this video is for you. I'm John from Marco Learning, and in this video, we're going to go over the synthesis essay, all about it. It's a very long task. I'm going to write one live, or at least part of one live here on the channel. I'm going to have AP English teachers telling me what I'm doing wrong in the comments. I hope that you find this video helpful and useful. In order to make this session go really well, whether you're watching it live or afterwards, jump in on the chat. Let us know what you're thinking, what questions you've got. What I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to copy and paste into our description here all kinds of links that I'm going to be using throughout our session. And I'm going to encourage you, if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, we're going to put tons of great information here all through this year. And crucially, we've got about 50 videos or so on our channel to help you get ready for test day. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to just make sure that I've got everything lined up. In fact, I just mentioned our YouTube channel. Let me show this off for just a moment. This is a playlist here with my colleague, Elena Vernon. Look at all the videos we have for AP English Language here. Some basic introductions to rhetorical appeals and analysis. I have a whole video walking you through the synthesis essay rubric. So when you're using that and learning from it, it's going to be very valuable. We also have one on the rhetorical analysis, what is traditionally called Q2. We have one on the sophistication point. I have another essay on another video dedicated to the rhetorical analysis essay. All through, Elena covers these great quick videos on structure, tone, rhetoric, denotation, and connotation. We've got some on multiple choice. We've got, again, this whole 1 hour review we did on synthesis. And then look at this, a 5-part essay breakdown of synthesis where I write a synthesis essay in slow motion with you guys, at least going over each step. I have a whole bunch of videos from last year's exam covering rhetorical analysis, as well as some other live study review sessions, the argument essay, some essays on images, the line of reasoning, tons of great content. I'm going to just make sure I've got everything set up properly here in YouTube. The other thing I want to show you is what we have on our website. So, and welcome, by the way, to everyone who is joining us. I hope that today's session is useful for you. If you like it, press that like button, and I encourage you to chat with me, whether you're watching this live or afterwards. So let me move on to the next thing I have available for you all, which is on our website here, we feature on our website our student support course. This is where you can actually send us your synthesis essays. You're from 2 full tests and we grade them for you. You can check that out on our website. I want to highlight these free study guide packs. I love 2 things for all my AP Lang students, of course. First is this AP English Language Study Guide Pack, which breaks down the exact breakdown of the exam. We look at our pretty graphics on the rhetorical situation. This is here for you in the description under free study guides. And I'll pop that into the chat as well so that you have it. So go ahead and download that study guide pack and make sure that you have access to it if you have not checked it out already. Another thing I want you all to see is the free practice test. This is a great place for you to go because this is where I'm going to be spending my time this afternoon with you all. So if you go to the AP English Language free practice test, I'm going to be writing with you a version of this synthesis essay. So if you want to take the test separately, then don't watch this video now. But if you want to see an example of how a synthesis essay is written, it's right here. We've got a full multiple choice test and free response. And then notably under in this test, we also provide explanations for you for each multiple choice question, explaining why A is right and B is wrong. So that's available for you as well. Again, the link is in the description. And then let's see a couple of other things real quick I want to show you for my teachers out there. We do have free lesson plans on our page, but crucially, and I'm really excited about this, we've updated and revised our checkbox rubric. It is now a fillable PDF that you can work with to kind of check off what points are earned by students. And there's some room to add in notes. Crucially also, we've made something that we're calling a self-assessment or peer assessment, right? You can grade someone else's essays in class and work your way through how to complete these tasks and even talk about your own work as you go through the essay. So check out this rubric. Remember, for everyone who's taking the 2021 AP English Language exam, whether it's paper and pencil or digital, you are going to be completing a synthesis essay, a full-length essay that will give you 6 maybe 7, but normally 6 sources. You'll have 15 minutes to read. You'll have 40 minutes to write. There's a lot to do in this time. And the way it's going to be graded is on a point-by-point rubric. Like I mentioned earlier, I have a video in our playlist dedicated exactly to this, how to ace the synthesis essay, the rubric walkthrough, where I really get into great detail. What I say in that video is you can get up to 1 point for a thesis statement. And that's pretty straightforward. You either get it or don't. There's no half point. There's no vibes from the reader. That you've got to make sure that you clearly respond to the prompt with a defensible thesis, and that position is really clear. And if you do that, you'll earn the thesis point on this exam. Then, and this is a little bit confusing, you can earn between 0 and 4 points in the evidence and commentary row. And evidence and commentary means, are you citing from the sources, whether through short quotes or paraphrases, and are you connecting that to your argument? If you only use 2 sources, you cannot earn 2 points. See what it says here? You have to use at least 3 of the 6 sources they give you in synthesis in order to earn all of the points. And so this rubric is really useful for showing you like what you have to do. You've got to make sure that you're able to check off this box if you want a 2 or 3 or a 4. You need to have those sources. And then you need to make sure that your sources and your engagement with the evidence is specific and relevant, that you're making many claims, that you're connecting your argument, your claims. You don't have to be perfect, but again, you want, in order for you to succeed on row B, you need enough evidence, you need to connect it to your thesis, you need to have a thesis in the first place, and really develop your essay. Don't get so paralyzed by fear during the test that you're not able to get the job done and really engage with sources, right? You can think your way through an essay, but you don't get points for thinking, you get points for writing. If you write too quickly and you don't read the prompt and you're careening around, you're not going to write good stuff and you won't get points. So the perfect balance is to do enough planning and pre-work and thinking to drive your writing, and then leave yourself enough time to really write it out. It's a balancing act as you're going through the synthesis essay. So that is row B. Row C is the sophistication point, and you need to stop thinking about the sophistication point. I have a whole video for you. It's me here, and there's a little monocle, and that's great. And I go through the sophistication point. In that video, I explain to you why you shouldn't be worried about it. You don't need it to get a 5 on this exam. You need to focus on the task at hand. If you write beautifully and you have great ideas and it all comes together, a reader might give you the sophistication point, but it's not the area of your focus. So let's get into the area of focus. Here is a sample synthesis essay. This again comes from the free practice test we have on our website, which I've linked to in the description. So what I like to do when I start with a synthesis essay is really work this prompt very closely. I want to make sure I understand the prompt, the background information, and what I have to do. Now you'll note that this essay has 7 sources. You're probably more likely to see 6, though officially in the course and exam description, I think there can be 7. So you'll see a variety of sources, normally mostly textual sources, and some images and graphs. And one common question I get here at Marco Learning is a synthesis essay like a DBQ on AP US History or AP World? The answer is kind of. And my advice to you is to think of it a little bit differently, where on a DBQ, you need to like use all 6 or 7 documents and get them through the, your argument and use them to support your argument. Here, you're using at least 3 sources, not necessarily all of them, and you're using them to sort of enter into a conversation. That's a different mode from winning a historical argument. So try to separate them out, even though you still have that 15-minute reading period. You got to get a thesis, you got to back it up with evidence. Okay, so I work the prompt very closely. And here I'll get the, I got a question for the link to the rubric, and that is in the description of the video, but it's right here on our free lesson plans page. Just at the bottom, you'll see the AP English Language and English Literature scoring guides. Those are fillable PDFs for all of those prompts. And again, everything I'm talking about, everything that I will mention is part of our 54 videos that are part of this mega playlist. So after this review is over at 2 in the morning, tomorrow, whatever, be watching these videos. So I like to spend a lot of time with the prompt. Miles is asking about the proper distribution of time. Really, I like to spend the full 15 minutes right here inside of the sources. And I'm gonna just make sure that this is easy to see. I wanna actually expand my window out Give me one moment so it fills up the space very nicely on your screen. So I like to spend the 15 minutes working through the reading very quickly. I think the key to balancing your time on this part of the exam is to not read the sources so closely that you're treating it like an in-class exercise, right? Or a take-home exercise. You're really blasting through the sources very quickly. Maybe you don't need to read every single paragraph towards the end. You're working through the sources, not entirely in them. Okay, let's take a look at this prompt. It says, the Electoral College is a process that determines the United States presidential election. The candidate with the majority of electoral votes wins. Each state, including the District of Columbia, is designated with a number of electoral votes proportionate to the state's population. However, it's possible that a candidate can win the majority of electoral votes, but lose the national popular vote, as was the case in the 2016 presidential election. As a result, some individuals believe that the Electoral College system should be eliminated, and presidential elections should instead be decided by the actual number of citizen votes cast nationwide. Others believe the Electoral College continues to be the most effective process. Carefully read the 7 sources, including the introductory information for each source. Write an essay that synthesizes, that brings together material from at least 3 of the sources. And you saw this in the scoring rubric. It's right here, right? You have to, in order for you to get 2 or more points in row B, it's got to be at least 3 sources. Write an essay that synthesizes the material from at least 3 sources and develops your position on the question: should the Electoral College be abolished and replaced by the national popular vote? Now, what's nice is they actually list out what these sources are, source A through G, and then they actually remind me of the rubric, right? Get a thesis, use at least 3 of the sources, using either direct quotation. I say keep those direct quotations pretty short. The longer your quotation, the more I'm rereading the sources in your handwriting, right? Paraphrase, which is a great way of summarizing what the person's doing, and really just a straight summary. In source B, Posner argues X, and you use that. They say that you can cite it as source A, B, whatever, or use the description in parentheses in the USA Today article. You want to explain how the evidence supports your line of reasoning, the why of your argument. I believe the Electoral College should be abolished. Okay, who cares? Why do you believe it? I believe it because it's outdated and unhelpful, and I don't think it's reflective of the country we should be. Oh, okay, then that's my line of reasoning. That's the basis of my claim. And so how does my evidence support that? Well, source A supports it in this way. Sources C and D contribute this. Although source E says something, it still is the case that the Electoral College should be abolished, and that's backed up by source F. Conclusion, wrap it all up, right? So the way that they want you to engage with the sources and write this essay is very much tied up with a kind of a proper use of as many sources, or at least 3 sources throughout this process. Okay, so I've read the prompt. I'm going to go back and reread the question. You should read questions more than once. In the 5-step video process that I have on the synthesis essay on our channel, I actually talk about reading the prompt between 4 to 7 times, over and over again. Not the whole thing, not the background. I kind of got the Electoral College at first. I want to read this question multiple times so that it's right here front and center. I'm reading the sources with this in mind. Should the Electoral College be abolished and replaced by the national popular vote? Should be abolished and replaced. Okay, maybe I could say, no, not necessarily. We could refine and improve the Electoral College. Not directly, I am directly answering the question with a slightly more nuanced view. I could defend the Electoral College. I could say, no, actually the Electoral College isn't great, but we should still use it. Otherwise, smaller states would kind of disappear. Think about it. Rhode Island and Wyoming won't matter very much in a system without the Electoral College. Now, granted, they don't matter that much with the Electoral College because of the way they vote, but take a smaller state that is kind of a swing state that gets a lot of attention, it's going to lose that attention. Maybe a Michigan, which is medium-sized, or Wisconsin, might be 2 states that I think would lose out on a national popular vote. Would also raise issues of urban versus rural. I have some ideas, and this is something to think about before you begin writing your synthesis essay. Do you have your own opinion first? And there's some debate here in the world of DBQ, in the world of synthesis essay. Do you spend time thinking of your own idea first and then get to the sources? Or do you cut right to the sources and engage with them? Let me know in the chat what you guys have been taught, what you guys prefer to do. The key is about balancing your time and getting the job done with this question in the front of your mind. Should we abolish this electoral college? And then they remind you can use appropriate grammar and punctuation. Let's take a look at these sources. As I'm reading the sources, I want to make sure I'm paying very close attention to this information. This is the USA Today editorial board. Keep the electoral college our view. So on November the 11th, 2016, USA Today says, you know what? Let's keep the electoral college. I know the argument before I've even begun reading it. And then it tells me the following article is excerpted from an article published by a major news and information newspaper. So very straightforward, USA Today has given me this article. A national popular vote would bring its own set of problems. So this is an excerpt and a valuable one because it's telling me exactly what this section is going to be about, that the national popular vote has its own problems. So it goes through all of this, et cetera, et cetera. And what I'm doing, by the way, I'm skim reading my way through this. It's got these colorful stories about Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election. I really need to get to the meat of the argument. I don't have time to necessarily struggle with every detail. Okay. So, and again, they repeat another problem altogether. Tuesday's election showed the electoral college map is more fluid than many people believed. Pennsylvania and Wisconsin considered reliably Democratic, swung Republican. If the national popular vote were the ultimate decider, candidates would gravitate towards voter-rich big cities and their suburbs and ignore everyone else. If candidates felt obliged to blanket the entire country with visits and advertising, it would set off a scramble for even more campaign money, leaving candidates more beholden to special interests. So let's talk about how to mark this up. I'm going to grab the annotation tool here in my Zoom platform. I'm going to show you some of the ways that you can mark this up. Now, remember, on the digital AP exams, and I don't know whether any of you are taking digital or paper and pencil. Let me know in the chat which you're taking. Are you a paper test taker, or your students are, or are you digital, or is it mixed in your school? Because the digital software does contain an annotation tool. This is something we featured on the Marco Learning social media accounts, like especially TikTok and Instagram, and on our Facebook page. We've highlighted how this highlighting, underlining, and keeping notes for yourself tool works. It's really quite a wonderful addition. I think the College Board added to their software to allow you to do something like this. It won't look like the pen I'm using, but it does give you a chance to work. Digital exams are weird because you're looking up at a screen and you kind of can't touch it the way you can a paper and pencil exam, but that still gives you a dynamic. So I'm going right to the parts of this that really matter, right? So if this reiterates this thesis, it would create another set of problems. Great. And here's this. Okay. Candidates would gravitate towards voter-rich big cities and their suburbs and ignore everyone else. So since I know that this article is about keeping the electoral college, right? I can come up with a symbol or letter or way of headlining what this is, right? So like if I get rid of the electoral college, it creates a problem. And what I might do, and I'm writing in with my trackpad here in Zoom, so it doesn't quite look like what my black or blue pen ink will look like, blue ink pen will look like, but this is a problem with getting rid of the electoral college. And I might use that word problem throughout to flag those different things and draw the connections as I'm working through the documents. Whatever annotation system you use, paper and pencil or digital or headlining, whatever you like to use, make sure that it's some sort of system you're not just randomly making up on test day. There's no one perfect way. If you've learned something in class, stick to that. Your teacher's right. Use a system that you can trust and that works for you. If you don't have a system, that's okay, except with 6 sources, you're running the risk that you're going to lose control of what's going on. So have a way to keep this going. What I'm going to do in my Google Doc here, which I won't have on test day. Remember, if you're taking the digital exam, let me get rid of my annotations real quick. I'm just going to keep some notes on source A. And what I could do as I'm keeping notes on the digital AP exam, it is in 2 windows. I can keep notes in the right-hand side while I'm working the documents on the left. So I might even begin some sentences and say something like, as source A indicates, there are many potential problems with abolishing the Electoral College. Now, I don't normally write sentences before I've even kind of finished the sources and worked through this. But one thing to think about with the dynamics of a digital exam, everyone, is that you will have this kind of blinking cursor on the other side of the screen. You can keep notes, you can begin writing sentences. And the sentence I'm about to write would work in any essay potentially, no matter what claim I'm making. So I say, as source essay indicates, there's many potential problems with abolishing the Electoral College, including the shift away from suburban and rural voters to, and now let's get the exact quote, right, was voter-rich big cities. So this sentence from source A is an effective sentence if I'm arguing for keeping the Electoral College. I could have a whole paragraph about all the problems that would create. Or if I'm developing a counter argument at some point, I have this available to me. I also, because the College Board software will let you copy and paste, can move this information around. So watch how much this is messing up the way I wrote the other essay on our channel. When I wrote it on an iPad, but I wrote it out by hand and in a more conventional way, where I did a ton of planning before I got to this thing. So I want you to see the messiness of what I've created and ask yourself a really good question. What will the experience of taking this test look like? What process will you follow? Do not improvise a new process on test day, everyone. Develop it now. Develop it this weekend so that you're practicing on the right kind of mode. I see a few, let's see, a couple questions. Yeah, so Miles, you're asking about a nuanced thesis and a counter argument. That is a great idea. I think that's an aspiration for the end of your essay. If you run out of time, don't do it, right? A nuanced thesis is always a good idea, so long as it's clearly responding to the prompt. But saying, oh, wait till I get to the end, I'm going to do 11 and a half sentences of beauty. Like, okay, good, I hope you get there, but you might run out of time and you want to be strategic. And I see some people are here from TikTok, welcome. And some people asking about canceling the exam. My recommendation is, if you've been studying for this, go for it. You never know what can happen, and don't give up just at this point. And for everyone who's joining, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, if you like this video, press that like button. We are here to help you out as much as we can. So I've asked a few questions of you. I've raised a few points. I want to review them very briefly. Point number one that I raised was that you should be thinking about the prompt constantly and reading it multiple times. Point number two, I've talked about timing. You need to make choices that are in the best interest of the timing that you are going to commit to on this exam. That might mean reading pretty quickly. There's a question I had here from Srinand, and I hope I'm saying your name right. Do you have to annotate the sources? Like I said, you don't have to annotate them, but you should have a plan. You should be intentional and thoughtful about what you're going to do. Don't be on test day going through the very first experience of your life thinking like, how am I going to approach this? Have you practiced with the digital software if you're taking digital? Have you taken this under strict time conditions? Remember, everyone, on the digital exam, as of April the 8th, a few weeks ago, the College Board announced that they are switching the order of the questions on the digital exam, both the multiple choice and the free response. So now synthesis, instead of being question 1, I believe is now question 2, right in the middle of the time that you have, which means you need to do your essays. You have to do them in the sequence that they're given. Once you've submitted an essay, you cannot return to it. So if you hog up tons of time out of going way too long on question 1, you're going to have less time for this question. If you finish question 1 so quickly, you will then create this sort of big balloon in the middle of extra time. Make sure you're sticking to the recommended 40 minutes per essay. So I'm working my way through the sources. I'm keeping notes. On a paper and pencil exam, I'm using my pen, because you write free response in pen. I'm using my pen to mark up and draw connections among the sources, like I did in this series we did on this channel under the synthesis essay. On the digital exam, I'm acting a little bit differently because I have pieces of text I can type and create as I go and move around. So let's finish source A real quick. Okay. Oh, they point out how difficult it is to amend the Constitution. The current system is all things right. It's okay. So they're making this point towards the end that it's going to be very difficult to do. Besides, changing the Electoral College would be both challenging to do and potentially divisive. Divisive. As the authors of the editorial board note. Do it like that. Good. So this is a nice way that I've engaged with two specific moments in source A to talk about, maybe I could sort of title source A, which is keep Electoral College. Good. Let's hurry up and move on to source B. This 53 minutes I just spent on source A is not realistic. I'm talking to all of you on YouTube. On the exam, you want to be into a nice rhythm where you're moving from source to source. Let's go to this source B. The following is excerpted from an article published on a general interest daily magazine website on Slate, Richard Posner, in defense of the Electoral College. There are 5 reasons. Ooh, nice, right? Certainty of outcome, everyone's president, swing states, big states, and avoid runoff elections. Maybe I don't want to read everything that this guy says. Maybe I want to like cut to the chase and say there'd be no regional appeal. Oh, good. I like this one. The idea that, so this is keep Electoral College as well. So I could say, as Richard Posner argues in source B, Electoral College functions to ensure that no merely regional candidate can win a presidential election. So notice what I'm doing for the readers. I'm making it very specific, the source I'm pointing to. I'm accurately summarizing a part of his argument. What I haven't done yet is tie this into a broader argument I'm making, because I'm not making an argument yet. I'm just really working through the sources in this almost this sort of digital exam format. So let's keep working through this source. Swing states, okay, big states, yes. In fact, I could even connect it here. Voter-rich big cities. I could even build in part of what Posner says here and connect it to the previous one. So according to source B, the Electoral College. And remember, you're not going to have any autofill, autocorrect, or Google Doc or Microsoft Word on the digital exam, and on the paper and pencil one, your hand is going to get tired from all the writing. The Electoral College protects the balance of power between large and small states. And I could connect that somehow to this point up here. In fact, maybe what I do is just create these as sort of bullets that I can then kind of connect. This mode of writing, I want to insist for like the 3rd time, is not the mode that you would write on a paper and pencil exam, because you can't stitch sentences together and copy and paste. On the paper and pencil exam, you'll be building out points in the margins and then connecting them all before you get into the writing. Here, you can almost write as you go. So I'm actually going to move past this. I'm moving too slowly through the sources. Ooh, nice. I don't have to read as much. Drew DeSilver, Trump's victory, another example of how Electoral College wins are bigger than popular vote ones. So the following graphic was created by a nonpartisan think tank website that reports on worldwide issues, attitudes, and trends. The Electoral College can magnify a win into a landslide. So President-elect's share of electoral and popular college votes. Let's read. The electoral votes are here in black. The popular vote is here in gray. Here's 2 super close elections. Here's 2016. Oh, I see. Right. It can distort that. So there's something graphically going on with this that shows a gap between electoral college wins than popular vote wins, that there's some gap between the electoral college and the popular vote. I could use that to argue both ways. Honestly, I don't 100% get this graph. I don't need to use it. This isn't a DBQ. Move on. D, National Archives records. What is the electoral college? Okay, the following is drawn from an entry published that keeps record, blah, 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 established. Oh, here's some basics. This is like a little Wikipedia list of what I need to know about the electoral college. I don't really need this until I'm going to cite it later. So I'm just going to scan over these. I'm going to skip that. Okay, great. Source E, let the people pick the president. Now I have a contrasting point of view from the New York Times editorial board, from the USA Today editorial board. So two different newspapers saying different things. And by the way, for those of you just joining, if you like this video, press that like button, subscribe to our channel here at Marco Learning, remember, and let me know in the chat, have any of you seen our other videos for AP English Language? I really want to stress, if you're not getting what you need out of today's video, you can definitely check out this series that we wrote. This will take almost an hour to get through as well with my rubric video on the synthesis essay. Here's another hour-long review we did. And then crucially, the other steps of me looking like an idiot on rhetorical analysis and the argument essay. So they're all there for you in this playlist on our channel. We're working through this sample of a free practice test we have on the Marco Learning website. You can check that out with the link in the description. Okay, so here's the New York Times editorial board. What are they saying? I'm gonna go down and write source E, and I keep my notes separate like this because I can always come back. Source E, this is get rid of, abolish, electoral college. I can use an abbreviation too, something like EC. To get me through it. Okay, the following is excerpted from an article published in a major United States newspaper. Decades of polling have found that Americans of all stripes prefer the president be chosen, blah, blah, blah. Defenders argue it was created to protect smaller states. Okay, that's wrong as a matter of history. Oh, right, this is an interesting point. The framers of the Constitution didn't really believe all the way in democracy, and they didn't trust us, the unwashed masses of American voters, to pick the right person. So they put the Electoral College in as a check against that sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? That sort of true democracy where we would directly pick a deliberative body of intelligent, well-informed men who would be immune to corruption. But regardless, the Electoral College is a disaster for democracy. So I'm going to say under here, New York Times editorial board claims that the Electoral College is a disaster for democracy. I just think that's such a interesting quote that I'm going to keep it as a part of my essay. And I really like having little snippets of quotes because it shows that level of engagement. Like I said, long strings of copy and pasting quotes are a big mistake on the synthesis essay. I think that they just underwhelm readers because they already know these sources cold. They don't need to reread it in your handwriting or reread it in Times New Roman 12. So, okay. Okay, this also, say source E argues that the original intent of the Electoral College was not, in fact, to protect smaller states. So I notice I've got, and you have a bold and italicized feature as well, which is really important, the bold and italicized feature that's available for you because that's something that you can use to link these different sources. So we have voter-rich big cities and all of this. So I'm starting to see how this comes together here between keep and abolish, just kind of organizing all of this and working my way through. Amending the Constitution is a heavy lift. That's another thing I saw already. Notice what I'm doing. I'm finding connections among the sources. And this would be both challenging to do. So this is another thing I can mark off. I could say source E indicates, concurs that changing the Constitution is difficult because of how amendments are designed. What I do not have, and this is really tragic right now, what I do not have is a thesis. I do not have a plan. I've just been working my way through the sources, improvising a sort of different style for a digital exam. If I were taking the digital AP English language exam, I would be practicing a mode inside of the software that I believed in, rather than kind of making this up. Then I get this next one, and I go through all of this. It says, the troubling reason the Electoral College exists. So this is another theme about the Electoral College exists to protect the elite. So let me pull back for a second and work with a thesis. Should the Electoral College be abolished or not? What I actually think about the Electoral College is irrelevant, even though I have to enter into a conversation. It's all about my feelings, whatever. I've got 45 minutes. It's a standardized test. So I'm sorry to anyone who like really cares about Electoral College. Like I am trying to get points and trying to get the job done. So that's just how it is on a test. I think if I were taking this home as an essay or debating it in class, we would discuss it for days and be super interesting. I don't have time for that. So I'm going to say, in spite of many problems, the Electoral College has been an important aspect of American democracy since the founding of our country, founding of the United States, since the Constitution, since the ratification of the Constitution. Oh, see, this autofill thing is going to be gone on the digital software. I'm going to miss it. It's been important since the ratification because it protects the interests of smaller states and non-urban voters. Now, this is a clear answer to the question. It responds to the prompt. It establishes a line of reasoning. I've got the because, the in order to, the how, the why going on. I also have a little bit of this nod towards complexity, right? I could set this thesis up by saying, hey, there's lots of critics of the Electoral College. There's lots of obvious problems with the Electoral College. Yet in spite of all of them, we should still keep it. That's either a way I can set up my intro, or it's a whole counter argument paragraph. I got this point, a question earlier from Miles, like I was told a nuanced thesis, which I'm trying to do, and a counter argument at the end will get the sophistication point. Yeah, it's no guarantee, but that's definitely the direction you're going to be moving in. And I'm moving in the right direction to try to earn that point. So in spite of its many problems, I could add a second sentence that bolsters this thesis sentence. This will earn the point. We come back to that rubric I showed all of you, right? Where it was right here. Is this a defensible thesis? Yes. Does it respond to the prompt? Yes. I get the thesis point. Good job, mate. I could add a little more sophistication-ness and say, moreover, Electoral College is, and here's where I have to think of that, like that second reason. I've got the first one. There's a whole body paragraph that can develop the interests of smaller states and non-urban voters. And then I need kind of my second idea. And it says, let's come back to the sources real quick. And oh, I love this, right? Because this shows the US election without the Electoral College. That's a lot of people in a lot of states that are less important if the Electoral College goes away, because New York, Florida, Texas, and California are such a large part of our population. And I'm over here in New Jersey, which is going to be stepped on. So I think that's another thing. Maybe actually it's two issues here. Smaller states is one issue and non-urban voters is another. Maybe I can also say the Electoral College. Oh, wait, I don't earn the thesis point yet, right? Because it's not that it's been an important aspect. Okay, I'm going to take this. The Electoral College should absolutely be preserved because, now I've fixed it. Okay, sorry about that. That's another good thing. Now I've got my sophisticated thesis and it's all sorted. I'm going to read it out loud. In spite of its many problems, the Electoral College should absolutely be preserved because it protects the interests of smaller states and non-urban voters. Moreover, the Electoral College has been an important aspect of American democracy since the ratification of the Constitution in 1789, written in 87, ratified in 89. Look at that. Now I've answered the question. The first time I said it's important because, or it has been important, that's not what the question was saying. The question was saying, should it be abolished? No. Or I could say, to make it less awkward, should absolutely not be abolished, should not be abolished. Now I've referenced the language of the prompt, responded to it clearly, and I've got this nuanced idea. Let's come up with a structure real quick, okay? I've got smaller states, 2, non-urban voters. And that might not work as a second paragraph, but I'm going to try. And third, foundational to American democracy. I'm going to start with an intro that acknowledges the problems right out of the gate. That's very sophisticated. I'm going to plot my thesis in there. I'll make sure that it's obvious to my reader where that thesis is. And then I'm going to go through my smaller states. Wait, clean that up. That's fine. My 1, 2, 3 body paragraphs. And then I'll do conclusion if I have a time, which would cover a counter argument. And then real quick, I'm going to pop in these sources and excerpts that I have. So I've got this line here for smaller states. Oh, that's big cities. I'll put this in the right spot under non-urban voters. And then it says, oh, and I'll put as a subpoint here, abolition of electoral college would be very hard to do. And I've got some quotes for that as well. Grab this segment. So this is how it would work for me on the digital exam. I would be kind of copying and pasting some of these points in. This would be regional. So I'll put this under bigger, smaller states. Okay. Then here's balance of power in small states. I'll add this under smaller states as well. I would also add source G, which is the cartoon. Okay, then I'll see, let's see real quick. Disaster for democracy. This is interesting. I could put that in my introduction. I like that. That's why I'm glad I saved a shiny quote, even though I didn't have an argument for it. All righty. Then I'm going to grab, let's see, was not to protect smaller states. So I need to acknowledge that it wasn't just to protect smaller states. And maybe I'll put that at the front of my paragraph. And then notice what I'm doing, everyone. I know I'm going 100 miles an hour, so let me just take a second and point this out. I'm clustering together the quotes and sentences I've written that are related to how the smaller states work. Look at me. I've got source E, source B, and source G in each paragraph. How awesome is that to synthesize, to bring together the conversation of 3 separate sources into one paragraph? That's plenty, right? And I'm going to put a topic sentence in there. And I can even just, as I'm building this outline in a word processor, as you will in the digital exam, I can say something like this. One important reason, and it's not a work of art here right now, but one important reason that we should maintain the Electoral College for maintaining the Electoral College is its vital role in protecting the interests of smaller states within the United States. Now I've got my topic sentence, blah, blah, blah. Although source E argues that the original was not in fact to protect smaller states, nevertheless, the protection of smaller states' interests is an important role of the Electoral College today. And actually, I can even do this if I want to get very ambitious, show you what it looks like. Here's my body paragraph that I'm starting to construct. And then I can start stitching these sentences and arguments together. So there's a lot more to say. There's so much more to do, and I want to insist that you go check out right now, and I'll push this here in the chat for our YouTube playlist for AP English Language. It has 50 videos. I go into great detail through each of the 5 steps that we recommend, where you read the prompt, read the sources, plan your thesis, and make sure that you have it written out completely before you move on. Notice in the essay I was just writing, I actually had my thesis fully written out. So that's step 3 is writing your thesis. Step 4 is plan that essay as a rough outline and then get to work writing as much as possible. Your job is to write as much as possible under the strict time constraints you have. So if you have other questions, please let us know on the Marco Learning YouTube page here in this video, on our Instagram page, on our TikTok page. We are here to help you through this season. And remember, if you want to write essays, we actually grade people's essays as part of our student support course, which I encourage you to check out. I'll put the link in the description. It's a really great resource. You get 2 full-length practice tests, and we grade your essays. So check that out. And for those of you who are teachers, definitely check out our free lesson plans, our summer workshops, our teacher support program. We actually have several dozen lesson plans for AP English Language for you and your students. So I hope today's session has been helpful.